China now drowns in a cascade of crises that threaten its very foundation. From catastrophic floods overwhelming cities to reservoirs teetering on the brink of collapse, the Chinese people are losing faith in a system that promised stability. Behind the CCP's polished propaganda, a grim truth emerges. Decades of mismanagement and environmental neglect have left the nation vulnerable, with the iconic Three Gorges Dam now at risk from unprecedented rainfall. Today, we expose the hidden realities: raging floodwaters, failing infrastructure, and a society pushed to the edge. Join us as we uncover these stories and the looming threat to the Three Gorges Dam in today's report, A Flooded Province, Hunan's Relentless Deluge. Since June 18, 2025, Hunan province has been battered by relentless torrential rains, shattering historical records with their ferocity. The Li River basin, feeding into the vast Dongting Lake system, has seen water levels surge past critical thresholds. Dams like the Zhongnan Power Station Dongmen Dam and Sanjiangkou Dam in Ximen County are releasing torrents of water, but the sheer volume is overwhelming. Over 310 reservoirs across Hunan, from Sili County to Changde and Yuanling, face imminent overflow risks. Floodwaters have ravaged communities, submerging homes, destroying businesses, and claiming lives. Social media is flooded with videos showing the Hawaiian hydropower station on the Li River completely underwater, its nearby Haiyan substation teetering on the edge of inundation. A local farmer, Mr. Zhang, shared his anguish. The power stations are dumping water to save themselves, but it's us ordinary people who pay the price. The Li River's water is spilling over the dam's crest gates. Portugal's gates don't even need to open anymore. If this dam collapses downtown, Yuanling will be wiped out. The floods have not only overwhelmed dams, but also breached river embankments. On June 19th, the Li River recorded its worst flood since 1998, with the Sanjishman station upstream reaching a peak of 262 meters, 2.38 meters above the safety threshold, and a flow rate of 7,300 cubic meters per second. Other stations like Liang Coast and Gui River in Yuanling reported record-breaking flood levels, exacerbating the disaster. In Ximen County, torrential rains triggered a devastating flood peak. Shops in the county town were submerged, leaving business owners reeling. A fruit vendor near the Li Bridge, Ms. Chen, recounted her loss. "We took out an 800,000 yuan loan to stock our store. The flood hit so fast, within an hour, everything was underwater. Our stock, worth over 800,000 yuan, rotted overnight. We fled to save our lives but left everything behind. Now we're still paying off the loan with nothing to show for it." Another business, Fruit World Supermarket, lost over 1.5 million yuan, with 1 million in goods and 500,000 in equipment ruined. "Our 1,000 square meter store was completely flooded," the owner said. "We're working around the clock to clean up, but everything touched by the water is unsalvageable." The human toll. Lives and livelihoods washed away. The floods have swept through Changde, Taoan, Ximen, and Yuanling counties, swallowing entire towns. In many areas, government rescue efforts were absent, forcing villagers to flee to higher ground. A resident in Sili County posted a desperate video. "The water's been rising for 2 days, and it's not stopping. We've moved from the first floor to the second, and now we're preparing to climb to the third." In Huku Town, Changde City, residents watched in terror as the Li River threatened to breach its embankments, with water already spilling onto nearby streets. In Sili County, where the Li River meets its Laos tributary, the damage was catastrophic. A villager explained, "This is the worst flood since 1998. The Laos River is pouring into the Li, and we barely saved a section of the riverbank after 400 people worked for 6 hours. The county towns holding but smaller villages are devastated. Villages in Sili County remain cut off without water, electricity, or road access. The Zhongnan River Power Station is discharging water at full capacity, with gates fully open, sending water plumes 2 stories high. A local warned people downstream take precautions now." On June 19th, The Sanjiangkou Reservoir exceeded its warning level, and a temporary footbridge near Ximen's four bridges was obliterated by the flood's force. Debris and rocks carried downstream destroyed the temporary Zhongnan River Bridge, built to support a larger construction project. The bridge collapsed last night, a resident said. The debris piled up and the pressure was too much. This flood has crushed us in Yuanling. The Three Gorges Dam, a ticking time bomb. The relentless rainfall now threatens the Three Gorges Dam, China's largest hydroelectric project, and a symbol of national pride. Located on the Yangtze River, the dam faces unprecedented pressure as floodwaters from Hunan and neighboring provinces surge downstream. The Dongting Lake system, a critical buffer for the Yangtze, is overwhelmed with water levels rising due to inflows from the Lixiangzi and Yuan rivers. The Three Gorges Reservoir, already strained by releases from upstream dams like Zhongnan, risks overflow. On June 20th, the Yangtze's water level at Yichang near the dam hit 55 meters, 3 meters above the alert level, prompting emergency discharges. Experts warn that a failure at Three Gorges could devastate millions downstream, including Wuhan, a city of 11 million. Professor Li Ming, a hydrologist at Tsinghua University, cautioned, "The Three Gorges Dam was designed for a 1,000-year flood, but these rains are testing its limits. Uncontrolled releases from smaller dams are compounding the risk. Social media is rife with fear. If Three Gorges fails, it's not just Hunan, half of China could be underwater. The dam's operation has long been controversial, with its seasonal water management disrupting the Yangtze's natural flow. During wet seasons, it releases muddy water to prevent silting, but this increases downstream flooding. In 2024, a levee breach in Huarong County was linked to excessive releases from Three Gorges, amplifying local floods. Systemic failures reservoirs as Tofu-Dreg projects. Hunan's 4,000 reservoirs built during the 1950s-1970s water conservancy campaigns are a weak link in flood control. Over 3,500 are deemed dangerous due to shoddy construction typical of China's Tofu-Dreg projects. These reservoirs were built by farmers, not engineers, said Dr. Chen Wei, an environmental scholar. They're crumbling under pressure they were never designed to handle. The CCP's three-tier management system prioritizes dam safety over human lives, with officials evaluated on reservoir stability, not public welfare. During floods, they release water to protect dams, leaving downstream communities to suffer. A contractor in Changde revealed reservoirs are leased for fish farming and tourism. During dry seasons, they hoard water for profit, but when rains come, they dump it without warning. On June 20th, a roadbed collapse on Provincial Highway 518 in Sili County halted traffic, with cracks in the road widening to half a meter. Landslides and eroded mud further destabilized the area. The land itself is splitting, a local engineer said. We're covering cracks with tarps, but water keeps pouring down the mountains. The Dongting Lake. The kidney of the Yangtze is in critical condition. Decades of land reclamation and sedimentation have shrunk its surface area from 4,200 square kilometers in 1949 to less than 2,000 today. CCP policies like converting lake beds for farming and fish ponds have created ravines and degraded water quality. The Three Gorges Dam has worsened this, reducing sediment flow and disrupting seasonal water cycles. Studies show a 20% reduction in Dongting's annual surface area since 2003, with eutrophication inside dikes far exceeding natural levels. The lake can't regulate floods or purify water anymore, said Professor Tongchan Ming. The Three Gorges clear water storage in dry seasons and muddy discharges in wet seasons have broken the ecosystem. The 2025 floods have pushed Dongting Lake to its breaking point, with 226 dikes struggling to hold back rising waters. Villages below lakebed level face severe risks as dikes built during the same flawed era as the reservoirs are prone to breaches. A 2024 breach in Huarong County displaced thousands, and locals fear a repeat. The government builds dikes but doesn't maintain them, a villager posted. We're sitting ducks when the lake overflows. The floods have exacted a brutal toll. In Henan County, businesses lost millions, with one shop owner lamenting, "Our 800,000 yuan loan is still unpaid, but our inventory is gone. We evacuated in minutes, or we'd be dead." In Sili County, entire villages are isolated with no power or clean water. A mother shared, "We're rationing food on the third floor watching the river rise. There's no help coming." Damages across Hunan exceed 2 billion yuan, with recovery timelines stretching years for the poorest households. The CCP's flood response has drawn ire. Relief efforts are often performative, with officials seizing photo ops while neglecting real aid. They show up for the cameras, then leave us to drown, a Yuanling resident posted. Charity drives face skepticism, with netizens donating 0.01 yuan and commenting, "Why give money to corrupt officials?" The government's silence on the Three Gorges threat fuels panic, with posts about dam failure censored within hours. They don't want us to know the risk, one user wrote. "If Three Gorges collapses, it's the end for us all." The flood crisis exposes the CCP's systemic flaws. Reservoirs and dikes built as symbols of progress are now liabilities due to poor construction and mismanagement. Officials profit from reconstruction contracts, turning disasters into opportunities. "Floods are a goldmine for them," a Changde contractor said. "They rebuild with the same shoddy methods and will be here again in a decade." The hukou system leaves rural victims without urban aid, deepening inequality. Social media buzzes with outrage. The CCP builds monuments to itself while we lose everything. Where's our voice? The Three Gorges Dam, once a testament to China's ambition, now symbolizes its hubris. Its design flaws and environmental toll amplify flood risks, yet the government downplays the danger. A 2025 study by the Chinese Academy of Sciences noted a 95 mm drop in Dongting Lake's annual rainfall and a 47.1 mm rise in evaporation since the dam's operation, straining water resources. "The dam was meant to control floods, but it's made them worse," said Dr. Chen. "We're paying for their arrogance." Toxic food scandals. A nation poisoned. In the sprawling markets of Henan and Shandong, where vibrant stalls once symbolized abundance, a sinister truth is emerging. Between 2022 and 2025, authorities uncovered over 15,000 cases of contaminated food products, from fake infant formula laced with melamine to vegetables doused in illegal pesticides, according to state media outlet Global Times. These scandals have reignited fears of the 2008 milk crisis, which killed 6 infants and sickened $300,000. Genetic testing revealed some organic produce contained pesticide residues 10 times above safe limits, capable of causing liver damage or neurological disorders. Alarmingly contaminated rice and cooking oil have been traced to supply chains feeding school canteens and hospitals. The Chinese public is outraged but unsurprised. On Weibo, one user posted, "Is anything safe to eat anymore? First milk, now rice. When will this end?" Another from Henan shared a chilling story. "My daughter fell ill after eating school lunch. The hospital said it was pesticide poisoning. How can we trust what we feed our kids?" The U.S. Food and Drug Administration (FDA) has warned that China's lax regulations pose a global risk as contaminated exports have reached markets in Asia and Europe. Yet the CCP's response remains muted, with inspections often announced in advance, allowing violators to evade scrutiny. With food prices soaring 25% since 2023, families are forced to choose between hunger and poison. Can China's food supply ever be trusted again? While cities like Shanghai and Shenzhen gleam with skyscrapers, millions of migrant workers toil in the shadows, their lives expendable in the eyes of the system. In 2025, over 290 million migrant laborers, nearly a fifth of China's population, face unprecedented hardship, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. Factory closures in Guangdong have left 1.2 million workers jobless since 2024, with wages unpaid for months. In Dongguan, a migrant worker named Li Wei told South China Morning Post, "I haven't been paid in 4 months. I sleep under a bridge because I can't afford rent. My family back in Hunan depends on me, but I have nothing left to send." Personal stories reveal a brutal reality. In Shenzhen, a construction worker described surviving on 1 meal a day, scavenging leftovers from street vendors. "We're treated like machines, not humans," he said. "If I get sick or injured, there's no hospital for me, only debt." Reports of workplace accidents are rising, with 3,500 deaths in construction sites in 2024 alone, yet compensation is rare. Social media is awash with videos of workers protesting unpaid wages only to be met with police batons. One netizen wrote, "The CCP boasts of prosperity, but we're starving under their skyscrapers. Where's the Chinese dream for us? The government's hukou system, tying benefits to rural hometowns, leaves migrants without health care or social safety nets in cities. This invisible workforce, once the backbone of China's growth, is now a ticking time bomb of despair." Education collapse. A generation betrayed China's education system. Once a beacon of opportunity is crumbling under the weight of inequality and corruption. In 2025, 12.2 million university graduates entered a job market, with a youth unemployment rate of 21%, the highest in decades per official data. Rural schools in provinces like Gansu and Henan are closing at an alarming rate, over 4,000 in 2024, alone leaving millions of children without access to education. A teacher in Henan shared, "My school has no heat, no books, and a leaking roof. Parents can't afford fees, so kids just drop out." Meanwhile, elite urban schools charge exorbitant fees, creating a chasm between rich and poor. Corruption scandals have further eroded trust. In Jiangsu, a college admission scam exposed officials selling university spots for up to 500,000 yuan, sparking protests from parents. A mother in Nanjing cried, "I sold my jewelry to pay for my son's tutoring, but he was cheated out of a future." What's left for us? On Douyin, students share stories of Gaokao factories where relentless pressure leads to mental health crises, with suicide rates among teens rising 15% since 2022. Netizens lament the system rewards the rich and punishes the poor. Education was our ladder out of poverty, but now it's a trap. The CCP's promise of meritocracy lies in tatters, leaving a generation questioning their future. Catastrophic floods in Henan. On July 1, 2025, Henan province was ravaged by a catastrophic flood, the worst in a century. In Zhengzhou, from 2:15 to 2:25 p.m., floodwaters surged through the city, swallowing streets, metro stations, and homes. Cars floated like debris, shops were inundated, and ancestral homes were reduced to rubble. Drone footage showed water levels reaching 8 meters, submerging entire neighborhoods. "How did this happen so fast?" one resident posted on Weibo, capturing the shock of millions. The aftermath was devastating. Mud piled 2 meters high, vehicles were mangled, and families lost heirlooms and livelihoods. Damages reached 150 million yuan, with some households losing 60 million yuan, including appliances and vehicles. A young father shared, "We lost everything, 30 million yuan worth of savings and property. Rebuilding will take a decade. For rural families, recovery could take a generation." Charity drives faced public scorn, with many donating just 0.01 yuan, commenting, "Why give to organizations that pocket our money?" The floods exposed not just natural fury, but systemic failures, as locals blamed unannounced dam releases for amplifying the disaster. In Zhejiang, a hub of entrepreneurship, businesses are collapsing at an unprecedented rate. Over 8,000 small firms in Hangzhou face bankruptcy, with export orders down 55% since 2024 per local reports. Owners juggle mounting debts, with some resorting to illegal loans to survive. A factory owner in Ningbo said, "I followed every rule, but I'm drowning in debt. The system doesn't care about us." Real estate is in freefall, with home prices in Wenzhou dropping 60%. A villa once valued at 5 million yuan now sells for 1.8 million at auction. Residents are desperate. A Yiwu merchant shared "I sell trinkets at the night market, but officials can seize my stall any day. How do I feed my kids?" A recent crackdown on unlicensed vendors sparked clashes with thousands protesting. One vendor shouted, "The CCP promised us prosperity, but we're fighting for scraps. Where's our right to live?" The economic collapse has shattered the myth of the Chinese dream, leaving millions questioning the system's legitimacy. Voices silenced, trust shattered. Public distrust permeates every sector. Charity appeals for Henan's flood victims were met with mockery with donations of 0.01 yuan and comments like, "I'd rather buy rice than trust these groups." A Zhejiang resident said, "We don't believe in charity anymore. Who gets our money?" The CCP social media posts about food scandals or unemployment are deleted within hours labeled misinformation. One user wrote, "They silence us because the truth hurts. We're not allowed to question anything." This censorship fuels anger and alienation, isolating citizens in their own land. A nation on the brink, China, faces a reckoning. Toxic food, exploited migrant workers, a broken education system, and devastating floods are threads in a tapestry of crisis. Behind the CCP's sanitized reports lies the anguish of a people betrayed. The government may suppress voices, but it cannot hide the fractures splitting society apart. Is this the dawn of a seismic shift? Only time will tell. Thank you for joining China Undercover. Share your thoughts below and subscribe for the unfiltered truth about China. See you next time. See you next time. See you next time.
A highway bridge in Guizhou collapsed. The front of a truck was left hanging in the air, and several cars fell. On June 24th, a highway bridge in Guizhou Province, China, collapsed. In videos circulating online, the front of a large truck can be seen hanging in midair over a deep valley. Several vehicles had already fallen into the valley, and the number of casualties remains unknown. On the same day, multiple netizens reported that an elevated section of the Xiaorong Expressway between Sandu County and Rongjiang County had collapsed. In the footage, the front of a red truck is suspended in the air, while the rest of the vehicle remains on the road. The truck driver is seen waiting for rescue inside the cab, as someone on the road shouts, "You can only wait for the fire department to come." The video shows that at least 2 cars had fallen to the bottom of the valley beneath the collapsed bridge. A driver on the scene warned others not to move forward. Eyewitnesses also noticed cracks on the road surface and quickly retreated for safety. Staff from the Sandu County Emergency Management Bureau said that the area was experiencing internet and power outages. After residents near the collapse site reported the incident, authorities dispatched personnel with a satellite phone to assess the situation. On June 24th, the local traffic police reported that the 1,063-kilometer northbound section of the Xiamen-Chengdu Expressway had been temporarily closed due to heavy rain. Temporary traffic control measures have been implemented in the Guiyang-bound direction from Guangxi. All vehicles are being diverted to the Lurong Expressway and the Jianrong Expressway at the 1,221-kilometer northbound point, Xiaorong Expressway, Huangmeng Interchange. The incident shocked netizens across China. One wrote, "Please rescue the truck driver quickly. My heart is in my throat. I hope there are no casualties." Another said, "This driver must have burned a lot of incense for his ancestors to be able to stop like that." Later, eyewitnesses confirmed that the trapped truck driver had been successfully rescued. One netizen lamented, "I just saw a video from a colleague. The road they were taking from Yulin, Guangxi to their hometown was completely blocked. COVID-19, typhoons, floods, earthquakes, natural disasters keep coming. In this turbulent era, we all know what really matters. Cherish every moment." Another wrote, "What happened? Why did the highway bridge collapse again? Was it a design or construction problem, or was it caused by an overloaded truck? Rescue the driver with everything you've got. May the driver be safe. Then hold those responsible accountable and deal with it seriously. Another scam on the people? China's central bank and 6 agencies unveil new directive. As China's economy spirals downward, unemployment surges, and consumer spending collapses, the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, has unveiled a new set of so-called stimulus measures to boost consumption. At the core, more credit and more debt. Critics say the regime is pushing citizens to borrow just to survive, a strategy that may do more harm than good. On June 24th, the People's Bank of China and 6 key departments issued the Guiding Opinions on Financial Support to Boost and Expand Consumption, outlining 19 measures across 6 areas, including boosting consumption capacity, expanding financial supply, and improving the consumption environment. The core message? Expand credit in key consumer sectors, inject financial supply into everyday spending, and build new debt channels like bonds and equity financing. But the Chinese public isn't buying it. The new policies sparked a flood of online sarcasm and outrage. They want to cut interest rates and hand out vouchers just to drain our savings and push us into debt. It's not enough to be wage slaves. Now they want us to be debt slaves too. The whole document screams borrow to spend. Like loans don't need to be paid back? They support loan consumption? I wouldn't borrow even at 0 interest. Debt is already crushing us, and they still want to pile on more. Can jobs be stable first? Have salaries risen? Loans, repayments, and more loans, that's the whole story. The old trick of investment plus leverage has failed, so now they're switching to consumption plus leverage. Same poison, different bottle. Other netizens slammed the endless policy merry-go-round that never touches the core issue. An unfair system rigged in favor of the powerful. Policies keep changing, but the privileged class never loses out. Nothing ever changes at the root. I tried starting a local business. I've got the connections, but now I see how much of the economy is just white gloves and cronies. It's a joke. Tears and threats, a Chinese farmer's nightmare. After 500 mu of potatoes were looted, Mr. Zeng from Suzhou, Anhui, never dreamed that the 500 mu of potato land he had contracted would be looted by hundreds of villagers just when the potatoes were ripe and ready to be harvested, with a loss of 150,000 kilograms every day for several consecutive days. After calling the police, they told him, "The law does not punish the masses." Mr. Zeng, in tears, posted a video online to protect his rights, but was threatened by the police and told to delete the video. In November last year, Mr. Zeng invested more than 3 million yuan and rented 500 mu of land in Qingquan Village, Jieji Town, Suzhou to grow potatoes. But when the potatoes began to be harvested at the end of May, Mr. Zeng discovered that nearby villagers often went into the fields at night to steal potatoes. "There were dozens of people at the beginning, and we kept chasing them away," Mr. Zeng said. After June 10th, the situation became more serious, escalating from theft to looting. Day or night, hundreds or even thousands of people came to the fields to dig potatoes. We tried to drive them away, but they ignored us. At most, they would drop the potatoes and move to another spot to continue digging. Mr. Zeng said that in addition to using sacks, many people even drove tricycles into the fields to haul them away, with at least 150,000 kilograms lost every day. Now, the total loss has reached nearly 1 million kilograms. Initially, Mr. Zeng called the police for help multiple times, but the police told him, "The law does not punish the masses. There are too many people, and we can't do anything." Unable to bear it any longer, Mr. Zeng posted a video of the scene online, but soon the police came to his door and asked him to delete the video, threatening, "With such a big impact, is it good for you?" At noon on June 16th, Mr. Zeng reported that government officials also pressured him to delete the video to reduce the negative impact. In addition, my relatives and friends from all walks of life came to me and advised me not to report it again, saying they were powerless. However, many netizens expressed dissatisfaction with the authorities' handling of the case, saying, "What's the use of such police? Fire them." And "The police are guilty of dereliction of duty, neglect of duty, and bending the law for personal gain." Amid public outcry, the Yongqiao branch of the Suzhou Public Security Bureau in Anhui issued a notice on June 16th, stating that the public security organs have accepted the case for investigation and that the next step will be to handle it in accordance with the law and regulations based on the investigation results. China's middle class is back to poverty, the new three-piece set. Milk tea shops, coffee shops, and taverns have become the new three-piece set, marking the mainland middle class's return to poverty. These once trendy businesses were symbols of freedom and leisure, associated with the pursuit of poetry and distant places. Today, they are mockingly referred to as the three-piece set of bankruptcy, especially among young entrepreneurs who ventured into small businesses after failures in homestays, camping sites, and script-killing parlors. From Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen to lower-tier cities and counties, such shops have mushroomed rapidly, only to shut down just as fast. Social media is flooded with bankruptcy confession posts as countless shop owners reveal that the oversaturated beverage market and rising rent have crushed their dreams. In some areas, it's said that every block has a milk tea shop, and every week another one closes. Industry analysts estimate that only 10 to 20% of these small beverage shops survive beyond 1 year. The middle-class entrepreneurial wave is now widely seen as a financial trap. New coronavirus surges. Again, white lung and sudden deaths increasing. Amid a renewed surge of the CCP virus in mainland China, cases of white lung and sudden deaths among young and middle-aged people are reportedly on the rise. Residents from Hefei, Anhui, and Anyang, Henan told the Epoch Times that local hospitals are overwhelmed, beds are fully occupied, and fever clinics are crowded again. Particularly alarming are reports of otherwise healthy individuals suddenly dying, with many deaths linked to respiratory failure and undiagnosed complications. In Hefei, hospital staff are facing wage cuts, while the local government has allegedly diverted hospital funds for unrelated municipal expenses. A nurse said their workload had doubled, but their bonuses had been canceled. In online forums, families have posted obituaries of young victims who died in their sleep or collapsed on the way to work, echoing a grim pattern last seen during previous virus waves. Despite public concern, authorities continue to downplay the severity of the outbreak. Pop Mart's new Hangzhou store shuts down just 2 hours after opening. On its grand opening day, a new Pop Mart store in Hangzhou was forced to shut down merely 2 hours after opening due to massive crowds and potential safety risks, sparking outrage among customers. Scalpers were reportedly seen hoarding products on site, while the store and the mall offered conflicting explanations for the sudden closure. What began as a frenzy of consumer excitement quickly devolved into a public backlash and a viral controversy.
Guys, please give me some advice. I'm really out of options. I haven't even spent a single day in this new house I just bought, and now what am I supposed to do?
Forget the crying. Crying won't help. You still have to repay the loan no matter what. At this point, no advice will work. If you want to fix it, you'll have to tear it down and rebuild it from scratch. China's Tofu-Dreg construction projects have long been heavily criticized. Online, videos of poorly built houses and bridges constantly surface. But what's even more shocking is that even the most basic components at construction sites, like bolts, welds, and rebar, can be faked. Let's take a look.
I really couldn't believe it. A man was doing maintenance work on a signal tower several dozen meters high. While checking, he casually touched a bolt, and it snapped clean off. At first I thought it was just a coincidence, but then every bolt he touched broke just the same. Good heavens, is this because the bolts are counterfeit or due to long-term corrosion? Look at this stainless steel bolt. Something this small can even be fake. See these bolts down here? These are the real ones, completely different. Time has proven the difference. This bolt looked like stainless steel at first, but turns out it was a fake.
Building a house is a major undertaking, and yet even something as fundamental and crucial as welding can be faked. In recent years, buying a home in China has become incredibly difficult. Many people know this firsthand. But even after pouring your entire family's life savings into a home and finally moving in, there's no guarantee an accident won't happen someday. Every minute and second I spend here is torment. I feel like the house could collapse in the next moment. The entire building's safety is at risk. I've spent my whole life working hard, and now all the money has gone into this house.
This windowsill was filled and finished with tons and tons of foam. Look, this kind of foam just falls apart with a slight poke. No strength, no hardness. It's turned to powder, and after it crumbles, it looks like this. This cement sand layer here, just rub it lightly with your hand and it falls right off. Look, just a light rub and it crumbles instantly.
Ceilings in apartment buildings across mainland China are truly fragile, and there's real-life proof of that. A man once accidentally stepped through a ceiling, creating a horrifying scene. And this isn't an isolated case. In the Yuechuan North Resettlement Housing Project in Sanya, Henan, China, an upper-floor ceiling was found to have no rebar at all, an absolute textbook case of a Tofu-Dreg project.
I believe if you break this open, it'll be just the same. This is no lie. If you dig here, it'll be the same situation. As long as you guys can take care of it, that's all that matters.
Bamboo and steel are two materials that are fundamentally unrelated, yet in the communist country of China, they seem to have a rather close relationship.
Look at this bridge. My God, are they really using bamboo instead of steel? A slab this large has only 1 or 2 pieces of rebar, and even those are just loosely suspended bars.
Here is a concrete column from a residential building somewhere in China, but what's exposed inside isn't steel, it's bamboo. So what's the quality of rebar in China like? The truth might scare you. On June 26, 2025, according to a report by mainland media outlet Langchao News, at the large-scale residential project Guoyun City Phase 2 in Bazhou, Hebei Province, several 16mm diameter rebar rods were reportedly snapped barehanded by workers.
Try another one. Look at that, shattered into pieces.
Mr. G, the project foreman, discovered that a batch of 16mm rebar was so brittle it could be snapped by hand, an abnormal condition, as such steel should be hard even to bend. He reported it to the Guoyun City Phase 2 contractor, China Metallurgical Tiangong Construction, but was shown a report claiming the rebar met standards. When he escalated the issue to Bazhou's housing bureau, officials said all materials passed inspection. Later, they claimed 2 rounds of testing confirmed compliance with design requirements. Mr. G was eventually dismissed for speaking out. Netizens reacted, "Start by investigating those who called it up to standard." Some noted the contrast between honest workers and corrupt officials. Snapping steel by hand and replacing iron with bamboo may sound absurd, but such cases are real. In fact, some collapsed bridges were found with no rebar at all. On August 8, 2024, the Longding Shui'an Bridge in Guizhou suddenly collapsed. No rebar was visible at the fracture point. In another part of China, the exit of a highway tunnel collapsed. Fortunately, it was discovered in time and no serious casualties occurred. Netizens commented, "The CCP's construction projects are the very definition of Tofu-Dreg engineering. Look at the highway foundation. Can anyone spot a single steel bar in those videos? These are projects costing 1 billion yuan per kilometer. Why do so many directors of transport bureaus and highway departments end up in prison? As long as the CCP's dictatorship survives, the Chinese people will never be truly safe." Due to continuous heavy rainfall, on June 3, 2025, a section of road in Sanjiangdong Autonomous County, Luzhou City, Guangxi Province, suddenly collapsed. Several cars parked along the road fell into a massive sinkhole. On June 24th in Guizhou Province, a viaduct on the Xiaorong Expressway between Sandu County and Rongjiang County suddenly collapsed. Several vehicles plunged into the valley below. A red semi-truck was left dangling in mid-air, its driver trapped, waiting for rescue. A bystander tried to stop other drivers from moving forward. It is reported that the trapped driver was eventually rescued safely. Some netizens sighed. Just saw a video my colleague sent. On their way home from Yulin, Guangxi, their route was completely cut off. COVID, typhoons, floods, earthquakes, natural disasters nonstop. In these turbulent times, we've finally realized what truly matters most. Treasure every step you take. Why are there so many Tofu-Dreg construction projects in China? The answer still lies in the political system of the Chinese Communist Party, CCP. Zhang Zhenglin, a construction worker from Hunan province, personally witnessed severe material skimming and illegal design alterations during the construction of a high-speed railway tunnel in Kujing City, Yunnan. He shared with an overseas Chinese-language media outlet, "When building a tunnel, you first have to excavate the cavity, then pour concrete and install rebar. But during the construction process, the amount of rebar and concrete was significantly reduced. Based on my rough estimate, for a 1,400-meter tunnel, 2,800 meters total for both directions, the value of the materials cut was over 20 million yuan. He also revealed that during the concrete pouring of the base arch, there was serious underfilling. The base was padded with dirt and construction waste. The concrete layer, which was supposed to be 150 meters thick, ended up being less than 50 centimeters. Each month, Zhang's boss even told him to use the excavator to steal rebar from the site and load it onto large trucks. His own father asked him to help with the theft twice a month, 5 to 6 trucks each time, with each truck carrying more than 40 tons. He added, "To win bids, companies often submit offers below actual construction costs. So after winning, how do they recoup the money and still turn a profit? The answer is, cut corners. Reduce or completely skip materials like rebar and concrete. It's a widely accepted unspoken rule in the industry." Zhang Zhenglin concluded, "The shady side of China's construction industry is just the tip of the iceberg under CCP rule. It's the system that breeds all of this. Chinese officials are appointed from above, and their top priority is always to report upward, not to be accountable to the people or to the actual work itself. And this only perpetuates a vicious cycle." Chinese investors are fleeing to Japan as real estate collapse accelerates. Market consulting firms report that with investment returns in China plunging, global investors, especially those from Hong Kong, are rapidly pulling capital out of China and pouring it into Japan's booming residential real estate market. According to the South China Morning Post on June 22, data from global real estate management giant Colliers International revealed that in Q1 this year alone, Chinese investors poured $1 billion USD, about 7.19 billion yuan, into Japan's residential sector, more than double the 5-year average of $428 million. Masahiro Tanikawa, head of investment services at Colliers Japan, didn't mince words. As China's real estate market teeters on the edge of collapse, Hong Kong investors, once fixated on China, are now rushing to safer havens like Japan and Australia. The SCMP report noted that since 2020, China's property debt crisis has spiraled, and over the past 24 months, new home prices have kept plunging without pause, driving investors to flee. Mindworks Properties, a branch of Hong Kong's Mindworks Capital, recently acquired Haven Shibora, a high-end multifamily apartment in Tokyo's Minato ward, marking a clear pivot to Japan. As China's property sector crumbles, more and more wealthy Chinese are not just moving their money, but moving their lives. By the end of 2023, Chinese residents in Japan hit 822,000, up 60,000 from the previous year, the biggest jump in recent years.
In the sweltering heat of mid-2025, a wave of unprecedented turmoil swept across China, unveiling harsh realities that have gripped the nation. The province of Hunan found itself at the mercy of lethal floods, with the entirety of Longshan County submerged beneath relentless waters. A staggering 178 reservoirs burst their banks, unleashing a deluge that overwhelmed the region. Following the deluges that battered Guangdong Hunan province, has endured days of torrential downpours, shattering long-standing rainfall benchmarks and leaving communities in despair. In late June 2025, an extreme natural disaster struck multiple regions in southern China, causing one of the most severe flooding catastrophes in 70 years. From Anhui to Guizhou, from Rongjiang to Sanjiang, hundreds of thousands of people were affected by heavy rain-hail water releases from hydroelectric dams and the collapse of numerous infrastructure projects. The scenes witnessed by residents were apocalyptic cities, submerged homes, swept away bridges and roads, destroyed thousands of vehicles missing, and people in panic searching for survival. In Anhui province, a fierce storm unexpectedly hit, bringing dark clouds, heavy hail, and winds of force 10. The rain poured so intensely that within minutes entire streets turned into rivers, water battering car windows and house doors. A panicked resident shared, "I couldn't see anything but darkness. This is the most terrifying storm I've ever experienced." The situation worsened in Guizhou, where prolonged heavy rain combined with dam water releases caused unprecedented flooding. In Kongjiang County, part of Guhao City, a bridge under construction was washed away on June 22nd. This bridge, part of a transportation infrastructure renovation project, set to be completed by year-end, was completely destroyed before its handover. This sparked public concern over construction quality and transparency in the building process. The following day, another bridge in the county collapsed as water levels peaked, affecting around 2,000 students who daily crossed it to school, now forced to watch helplessly as the floodwaters carried everything away. In Rongjiang County, one of the hardest-hit areas, the entire electrical and telecommunication systems were paralyzed. An estimated over 100,000 people were directly affected. Rising waters submerged residential areas, sweeping away numerous cars. The Chongqi Fortune Plaza shopping center was not spared, its basement flooded deeply with water reaching the third floor. A viral social media video showed muddy water surging into the main lobby via escalators, turning the mall into a sea within hours. Many businesses were utterly destroyed. A supermarket owner estimated losses at 20 million yen. A tea shop opened in May was wiped out with biological measuring devices worth tens of thousands of yen per unit irreparably damaged. Many small business owners who had borrowed to start their shops now face both lost capital and mounting debt. Residents in Rongjiang recounted floodwaters rising to the fourth floor in riverside areas. Cars were piled up like mountains. They lost everything: homes, possessions, electricity, water, food, and hope. A mother of 3 said she was struggling to support her family and repay a shop loan monthly, now feeling the sky has collapsed. Additionally, the Monkey River Bridge in Sandu County collapsed on June 23rd. 2 sedans fell into the water, and a large truck was left dangling, its driver rescued after nearly 2 hours. A video showed the 200-meter bridge collapsing entirely as its main pillar was swept away, stranding thousands due to severed key routes. In Guangxi Province, Sanjiang and Dolan counties reported severe landslides, demolishing homes, crushing cars, and cracking house foundations. A resident said, "The weather's been dry for ages, but one heavy rain triggered landslides right next to my house, very dangerous." Many communities lost power and water, becoming isolated, with residents evacuating via mountain paths, some injured from falls. In Hunan Province, the Water Resources Department reported over 310 reservoirs overflowing, affecting 7 cities and over 400,000 people. Several towns were fully submerged, with authorities unable to assist, forcing residents to flee to higher ground for survival. A farmer claimed hydroelectric stations released water without warning, exacerbating the damage. While authorities labeled this a once-in-a-century rain, residents fiercely disagreed. They argue the flooding wasn't just a natural disaster, but a result of poor hydroelectric dam management, lack of warnings, inadequate maintenance, and local government indifference. Experts suggest dam construction in China has historically prioritized showmanship over environmental considerations and resilience to extreme weather. A widely circulated online comment read, "What collapsed wasn't just a bridge, but a rotten system of 40 years." Residents now face not only floods, but a harsh reality, lack of trust, safety, and a clear future post-disaster. As the waters recede, only thick mud rubble, a stench of garbage, and dazed eyes uncertain of tomorrow remain. The impact has been particularly severe in the rural hamlets and small towns of Zhangjia, where floodwaters have encircled entire villages for 2 agonizing days, leaving residents in dire need of immediate assistance. The city of Lan County, nestled within Shangji, Hunan, became a watery graveyard as the floods claimed numerous lives and turned streets into rivers. A detailed account of the devastation is essential reading for those seeking to grasp the scale of this tragedy. Amid the chaos, a chilling scene unfolded as a vehicle teetered on the edge of being swept away with faint silhouettes, suggesting occupants trapped inside their fate uncertain. Since June 18th, Lan County in Shangji has been pummeled by extraordinarily intense rainfall, with 40 monitoring stations across 21 townships recording relentless downpours. The Hua station in Dan Township set a new state record for 24-hour precipitation, measuring an astonishing 378.9 millimeters. By 9 a.m. on June 19th, local reservoirs had discharged their contents, while the Gwali River's water level surged by an alarming 9.57 meters, far surpassing previous flood peaks. Homes along the streets were inundated roads, crumbled bridges gave way, and entire neighborhoods faced severe flooding. Urgent calls rang out for residents in the affected zones to flee swiftly as the situation deteriorated. The town of Longshan saw widespread inundation with water encroaching on every corner. Reports emerged that on the second day of the Longshan County High School entrance exams, severe waterlogging prevented 37 students from attending, forcing some to swim to reach the examination halls. Public outrage mounted against the authorities for their inadequate rescue operations, with many accusing the government of neglect amid such catastrophic conditions. In the underground parking of Longling International Community, numerous individuals lost contact, and by June 20th, officials confirmed 3 fatalities. However, given the consistent cover-up of disaster tolls by the ruling party, the true number of casualties remains shrouded in mystery. Locals described this as the most catastrophic flood in recorded history, recounting how they urged each other to move cars at 4:00 p.m., only to witness the area transform into a watery abyss within 2 hours, a terrifying ordeal. Residents labeled it a dual disaster, born of nature's fury and human error, with water depths rendering entire regions inaccessible. Mainland media highlighted how recent heavy rains have obliterated historical weather extremes across towns and villages in Shangji, Zhangjia, Zhongde, and Huihua, Hunan. The Lui River's main channel in Sanji County overshot the critical warning threshold, while the Liang Shuiko station and other segments along the Liwei River hit their highest levels since their establishment. Across the province, 178 reservoirs unleashed their waters, prompting the urgent evacuation of 25,000 individuals by June 20th. A villager from Sixing, Miz, he recounted the horror when Sanji's floodgates opened, describing a scene of total devastation where the first floor was submerged, the second teetered on the brink, and fields lay ruined with crops lost. No household escaped unscathed, facing immense losses as utilities failed and food supplies dwindled. Villagers informed NTD that Zhangjia's towns were swallowed by a vast watery expanse, with floods persisting for 2 days without retreat, and no governmental aid in sight. Forced to seek safety on higher ground, they spoke of their plight. Mr. Wang from Fangxiang Yongging district, noted that several power stations released floodwaters causing widespread suffering as water levels soared. The Henan power station on the Liwi River saw its dam topple with water overflowing naturally, leading to its collapse and the obliteration of Zhangjia's center. Mr. Chen from Mayang Town reported that the Mon River upstream of the Liui flooded, leaving homes underwater, villages without power, and families bereft of food. Meteorological forecasts warned of continued heavy rains across multiple areas and torrential downpours in some regions over the next 3 days, promising no respite. Beyond the natural disaster, China's economy faces a deepening crisis that starkly contrasts with official narratives. While Beijing touts a 5% GDP growth for 2024, the economic reality paints a grim picture unsupported by credible evidence. As the nation grapples with a downturn more severe than anticipated, experts caution that it is not merely a slowdown, but a plunge toward a full recession. In January 2024, the ruling party set a 5% growth target, a figure economists swiftly dismissed as fabricated, highlighting a widening gap between state reports and actual performance. Professor Fangjia Zhang from National Taiwan University stressed that recent figures reveal a worsening economic condition compared to the previous year, with the 5% claim lacking any factual basis. A striking example is the Consumer Price Index CPI, which inched up by a mere 0.2% year-over-year, while the Producer Price Index PPI dropped by 2.2%, signaling a troubling deflationary trend. Goldman Sachs analyst Shan Hao predicted that China's CPI might hit 0% for the year, a red flag for an economy purportedly expanding. Fangjia warned that indicators flagging deflation last year continue to blare alarms, with data from the year's initial months showing no relief from this pressure. He also pointed to a projected sharp decline in government fiscal revenue for 2024, noting that true 5% growth should boost consumption, investment, and taxes, universally trends absent in China. Even official statistics hint at trouble, with a national urban unemployment rate of 5.2% in March, yet youth unemployment spiking to 16.5%. Respondents described a stagnant job market with no hiring surge during the May Day holiday, and many vacancies suddenly canceled, reflecting ongoing weakness. Fangjia Zhang highlighted that the latest official data from March and April offers no signs of recovery, suggesting even these figures are embellished. Nomura Securities issued a dire prediction, estimating that tariff shocks could lead to 5.7 million job losses in the short term and 15.8 million over the long haul. Fangjia believes that even the ruling party lacks a clear grasp of the true growth rate, with fabricated data permeating every department and region, leaving the leadership in the dark about the real state of affairs. Experts suggest the economic reality may exceed the pessimism of external observers. Senior commentator Wu Jianglong asserted that the economy has already entered a recession, far beyond a mild slowdown, potentially echoing the 1930s Great Depression. Early collapse signals appeared last December, with Swiss journalist Matthias Kamp from Neue visiting Guangdong, once China's economic powerhouse, and finding mass factory layoffs and escalating worker protests. Beijing's response, rather than solutions, involved intensified repression and surveillance, with Freedom House noting a 27% rise in strikes from July to September 2024, some turning violent due to layoffs, unpaid wages, and pay cuts. Local government debt has ballooned, with IMF data showing 92 trillion yuan, 76% of GDP owed by 2022, and Voice of America suggesting the figure may now surpass 100 trillion due to reckless borrowing for growth. Wu Jianglong warned of a cascading crisis, soaring unemployment, a deepening real estate slump, widening fiscal deficits, and state-owned enterprise debt potentially exceeding 115 trillion yuan. Exports, the last remaining economic driver, have faltered as the U.S. imposed steep tariffs, with nations from Southeast Asia to Africa following suit, cutting China off from its largest market. Wu emphasized that the immediate crisis lies in the loss of export momentum, with domestic demand unable to compensate, steering the economy toward an unavoidable cliff where the downturn will soon be undeniable. Experts have uncovered 3 methods the ruling party uses to mask this economic collapse. The party has been caught erasing hundreds of critical economic metrics once vital to researchers and investors. A May 5 Wall Street Journal report noted the mysterious disappearance of previously public data not limited to cremation figures or business confidence, but extending to basics like soy sauce production. Wang Guocheng, an assistant researcher at Taiwan's Chinese Economic Research Institute, told the Epoch Times that the WSJ may be lagging as the party has concealed even more indicators since March, including private fixed asset investment and the People's Bank of China's monetary policy data. Wang outlined 3 cover-up strategies erasing data by halting key statistic releases as the journal described, altering definitions such as revising the M1 money supply metric in January to turn negative growth positive or quietly adjusting youth unemployment figures, an outright falsification with internet personality, Xiao on her YouTube channel exposing manipulated consumption data. She noted that even in Beijing and Shanghai, first-quarter spending fell, making national growth claims of 4.6% implausible, achieved by secretly lowering last year's baseline to fabricate progress. This is more than censorship experts argue, reflecting a crumbling confidence in governance and growing opacity within the regime. Over recent years, data on land sales, foreign investment, and unemployment have vanished alongside cremation and soy sauce production reports. The Wall Street Journal's May 5 piece highlighted the unexplained cessation of hundreds of economic data points amid mounting crises, massive local debt, a collapsing housing sector, and a weakening economy, prompting stricter propaganda controls. Sun Guyang, a professor at Nanhua University in Taiwan, stated that this data suppression reflects China's fear of truth, targeting the economy's weakest areas. Hiding these figures, which no longer support the official story, risks undermining the regime's legitimacy and public trust. He views this as self-deception, addressing symptoms rather than root causes, often involving politically sensitive issues like the low fertility rate, a growing economic burden. Sun added that this data disappearance signals collapsing governance confidence, where the party's retreat from scrutiny could trap the economy in a prolonged, opaque decline. Your thoughts are welcome in the comments below. We will continue to cover the unfolding situation in China, so please subscribe and enable notifications for the latest updates. Thank you for watching.